What would motivate someone to leave their comfortable life behind and march into an African country like the Congo, far away from any major city, out into the bush, to help teach their children learn how to read and write and teach them life skills that would help improve their lives and teach them about the love of God? Why would someone give up years of their life and money to do something like that? Well, we'd like to introduce you to someone who has done just that, Mr. Wolfgang Peter Schmidt from Germany, who decided to do what he could do to change the world with love. And as abstract as that idea might sound, it actually became a reality for hundreds and even thousands of children in the Congo.
Écoutez plus souvent les choses que les êtres, la voix du feu s'entend. Entend la voix de l'eau. Écoutez dans les vents.
Thank you, and you? I am okay. Where do you come from? I come from Mabala, and you? I come from Yuki. Where are you going now? I'm going to Itavadash Mabala. What are you doing there? Soaring there, we are learning a lot for preparing how a life come with you. Come, Mabala, handing your gift people to start feeling it at Itavadash Mabala for receiving the formation of higher quality. Okay.
Well, I literally came back just recently from the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is a huge country with enormous challenges. You may not know much about that situation, but I'm sure you are aware of many other trouble spots in the world. When we look at all these problems, it is easy to come to the conclusion that there is not much we can do about it. However, I believe that everybody can do something, and things will change for the better if we act in love.
Today we have a very special guest all the way from Germany, a very interesting gentleman by the name of Wolfgang Peter Schmidt. And Peter, thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to hear your story. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up, where you grew up, what kind of a family life you had, how many brothers and sisters you had, where did you come from, a religious family? Give us a sense of what it was like growing up for you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for this invitation, for being able to talk about our work in Congo. Originally, I come from Mainz, near Frankfurt in Germany. We were a very Catholic family. I had a wonderful upbringing, good friends in our neighborhood, and I still am friends with some of these people. I have 2 sisters and 4 brothers. My father was a very busy gynecologist. My mother was a household school teacher, but with such a growing family, she had to spend her full time with us lively children, especially 5 boys, close to each other in age. I still remember the best time in my childhood was when I spent my whole summer holidays between 6 and 10 years on a farm with close friends of our family in the countryside. There I fell in love with nature and life as I believe it was intended to be. Our family was very religious. We went to church every Sunday. I followed all the church rules. And in those days, I believed in Jesus and the Bible stories I learned. But unfortunately, all this changed when I grew up and became a teen.
So tell us, as you got close to adulthood and you entered your teenage years, what kind of goals did you have in your life at that time? What was your vision?
After my primary school years, I went to high school in a boarding school for 9 years in the beautiful Alps, far away from my home and hometown. Slowly, I got to know the outside world, what was going on there. When I saw all the troubles in the world, the injustices between the rich and the poor, the hatred between East and West, the Vietnam War, my life completely changed. In those years, I also lost my faith in God, and my happiness in life went down. I was lost and didn't know what to do with my life. I wanted to stop the hatred, the threat of atomic war, the Cold War between the Russians and the Americans. I wanted to change the world and the injustices I saw. I wanted to help the poor, but I didn't know how.
What motivated you to go to the Congo? How did you get there? Why did you go? And what happened when you went there to the Congo?
In the year 2000, 21 years ago now, together with some friends, we founded a charitable organization called Active Direct Help in Germany, because we wanted to raise more funds to help in our humanitarian aid projects in Africa. In that year, I went to Africa the first time. First, I went to Guinea-Conakry in West Africa, where I imported my first container with humanitarian aid. Then I got together with my wife Lenka in Zambia. We knew each other from working together in Slovakia before, and we felt that we should work together in Africa. At that time in Zambia, we met a UN pilot who was working in one of our neighbor countries in the Democratic Republic of Congo. When we talked with him about our work in Zambia, he said, "We need people like you in Congo." That's exactly what he said. He even tried to bring us there at that time, but it didn't work out as they still had their big war going on at that time. But we found out that the need was bigger there than in any other place that we were in before.
What year was this when you met that guy?
That was 2001 when we were in Zambia. Since it was not possible to go to Congo at that time, we went to Cameroon next, where we imported our second container of humanitarian aid, and we met the wonderful pygmies in the rainforest. We had a wonderful time there. But we still looked for an open door to go to the Congo, because we knew that the need was bigger there than anywhere else. And in 2003, the door finally opened after their big war moved to the east of the country. Now, we didn't know anybody in this country. We barely spoke any French. We just arrived with our suitcases, had very little finances, but we knew the need was very big there. And after we had found a place to stay, some of our team members from Cameroon joined us.
So eventually you opened a school or schools. How did you do that, and what gave you the idea for opening a school, and how did it work?
The keys to your heart, my darling love. I'd do anything for you. I can be your one true love. I can make all your dreams come true. If you let me be the one, let me be your all and all. I will.
You didn't have a lot of financial support at the time. Tell us how the school vision there in the Congo developed for you.
Okay. Now, in the beginning, in 2004, we imported another container of humanitarian aid because we had aid collected in Germany. And we distributed that to the needy people in Kinshasa. But then Lenka had some health issues, and we had to take a break from Congo for some time. In 2007, we moved back to the Congo and started a feeding scheme for poor children in the outskirts of Kinshasa. And from then on, our focus switched to help the poor children to have a better life.
So a feeding scheme means that you were bringing food to the people, or you?
Exactly. Yeah, we had a local team, friends who helped us to like we bought the food, we cooked. They helped us to cook the food, and then we were feeding the children. And also, when we got clothes, extra donations of clothes, we gave them, shoes, things like that.
Before we talk about the schools a little bit, could you give us a sense of what and I know we're going to get into this in a minute, but what was it like What was life like in the Congo? Like if we walked out into the street, do they have big highways? Are there lots of cars? What's it like there?
When we talk about the Congo, we have to make a difference. When we arrived in Kinshasa. Kinshasa is the capital city with, well, at that time it was 10 million. Now it is 12 million people there, about 15 years later. And life in Kinshasa is completely different than in the rest of the Congo. We'll talk more later about the countryside, which we didn't know at that time. I mean, you have to imagine Congo is not like Europe or the States. You know, besides you're a total minority as a white man, but we had a good time. Like we were not afraid. In some countries in Africa, you can be afraid when robbers come and steal from you. They can shoot you. But in Congo, the rule there is if you give them what they want, they let you live. So it wasn't like fearful or something like that. It was just totally different. Like people are extremely poor. That's something that hits you from the start. You know, you wherever you turn around, you see poor people, begging people, destitute people. I mean, there is a small center of the town which is for the rich. There's also very rich, but very few rich Congolese. And then there is, of course, the white people community, but the rest, 90%, is just extremely poor. And that's what you're faced with. And if you go there as a humanitarian aid or worker or as a missionary, you have to do something about that.
Okay, I just want to ask you, because I know you lived in India for a while before going to Africa, before going to the Congo. How would you compare India to the Congo? Is India more developed? Are they both poor on a level? Because a lot of people know about India, and very few people really know about the Congo. How does it compare to India, in your view?
Well, when I was in India, India was also very poor. But of course, from what I understand, in the meantime, it developed a lot, while the Congo did not develop. Even in Africa, you have to make differences. Like there are some more developed countries and some less. And Congo is one of the less developed countries. Now in Kinshasa, you have streets. You're talking about streets. In Kinshasa, you find good roads, but as soon as you go out of Kinshasa, that's the end of civilization. I mean, let's say, I would say from Europe to go to Kinshasa is one step down. And when you go from Kinshasa to the countryside, it's the same size of step down again. Like people in the countryside live so poor. They live like time has passed them by. You know, there's no infrastructure. They have no proper roads, no electricity, no running water. It's just like they live like hundreds of years ago. And that's what we started to if I may go back to our story.
Yes.
In 2010, our neighbor Michel, a Belgian neighbor, told us about the much bigger need in the countryside, and he invited us to see the need there firsthand. He and his partners had a big farm in a small village called Mushapo, about 1,000 kilometers southeast of the capital. And when we went there in 2011, we realized that if we don't help them, nobody else will, as almost all the NGOs are in the city, not the countryside, because life out there is extremely hard. It was a difficult decision for us to accept the challenge, but we did decide to build them a school, as they didn't have school. There was just no school, and the schools in the next villages were pitiful.
So how did it come together? Where did the finances, and when you say you build a school, does that mean you're going to build a building? Do you start from scratch? Where do you get the land to do that? Do you get any local support? Where do the teachers come from? And I guess I don't have to ask where the students come from, because they're all over. So, but how did it come together? Give us a little bit of the background of that. It's an amazing story, actually. Yes.
Yeah, when we arrived there, we talked to the chiefs. There were two chiefs because it was a double village, and they asked us if we would build a school for them. They knew that we were coming to possibly do such a thing. And I said, well, if you help me to build that school, we'll do it. And he looked at me like, what? A white man is asking us to help? Like they expect that the white man has an incredible amount of money, which we didn't have. So they agreed, okay, they will give us, to start with, they will give us a 10-hectare piece of land free of charge, which was the start. And then, yeah, as you said, how do you build a school? There's nothing. They have nothing. You have to start from scratch. We had one of the managers of that farm by the name of Jean. He became our manager, and he knew how to build, how to make bricks. So you have to find the right kind of ground, mud that you can press into shape of a brick, and then it has to be solid enough to burn. So we formed bricks, we burnt the bricks, and that became like a very strong material to work with, because the local people, they built their houses with sticks and mud and grass roofs. And after 1 year, the grass roof has to be renewed because they have strong rainfalls. And then after a few years, the whole house collapses. So to have burnt bricks is something that should last for decades. And that's the way we built our school and the roofs. We used metal sheets, which we brought in from the 60 kilometers away next city.
So what year was this when you started your first building of your first school?
That was in 2011 when we came there to the farm. And well, we had a lot of trials, setbacks, but finally the first school building was coming up. And we started out with, in the first year in 2012, with 120 pupils out of Mushapo. And then when the word came around like that, we didn't just build a school for them, we supported the school in such a way that the students, they could go to school free of charge, which is unheard of in Congo. So the more students heard about it, then they came from the neighbor villages, and a few years later, we had 500 school children attending classes, which was way more than we originally planned.
Tell us where did the teachers come from? And if you have 500 children in a school building, how many classes would that be divided up into? And where did you get the teachers? And did you pay the teachers, or were they all volunteers? Explain how many school classrooms in that school that you had, and where did you get your teachers?
Yeah, well, we started 1, 2, and then we made a third building with 10 classrooms and 10 classes. We had 11 teachers, the school director, and 10 teachers. The teachers were chosen by Jean, our local manager, and they go through, he goes through their papers, because they can be fake papers. They have to go through a test to see if they're good. And we had a very, very good school director who is still the director of that school, but I'll tell you later what happened with that school, and wonderful teachers, which we had to pay. You talk about volunteering, nobody can volunteers in the country. They have nothing to eat, they have to survive. So if you hire somebody, you have to pay them. And we had to raise the money for quite a few years, which was a big challenge. But we are very thankful for our association, which makes it easier.
Did most of the finances come from your supporters in Europe, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And
yes.
Tell me, once your school was running, what was it like for the kids? How did it change? How did it change their lives? And like, after a day of school and they go back home, it probably changed the parents' lives also. What was the reaction in the community in that village?
Yeah, I mean, they were very, very thankful. They even started a secondary school. We had a primary school, like from grade 1 to 6. That's the way the primary school goes there after the French model. And then from 7 to 12, they have the secondary school. They even started their own secondary school with paying their own teachers, because they knew our finances were limited. It was wonderful. We had a wonderful time. We even started to build another building for a medical center, which, well, I'll tell you later what happened with our school. It was very, very challenging. Anyway, I just want to say that our school was an exception in Congo because normally all the children in Congo have to pay school fees or they cannot go to school, which is why 50% of the children in Congo and in many other African countries too, they do not go to school at all. The main reason is that they are too poor. They have a hard time to get food on the table. So how can they pay for school, you know? But we wanted to have our children go to school free of charge, which meant we had to raise the funds for the teachers. And after several years, finally, the teachers were being paid by the government, which was a total miracle, which I describe in detail in the book. It's a long story, but that was our first school with being, you know, set up and run.
So tell us some of the difficulties that you faced. I'm sure it wasn't just like everything ran smoothly. What were some of the difficulties you faced and how did you overcome those difficulties?
Yeah. Well, if you build a school in Congo, you face a lot of difficulties. There is poverty, sicknesses, I mean, like deadly sicknesses like malaria, cheating, stealing, corruption on all fronts you face there. And then another big challenge is the lack of infrastructure. There is no like electricity, no running water, no proper roads, which makes life extremely difficult. And even if you get your school registered by the government isn't easy. Like you build a school for them, but you have to fight to get their school to get registered by their own Ministry of Education. If we wouldn't have had close friends in Kinshasa who had contacts to the Ministry of Education, we couldn't have registered our schools. Yeah. So a huge problem occurred in this area of our first school, which is called Kasai. Terrible violence broke out because they have diamonds and minerals in that area. And the strongest tribe chased out all the other tribes. And most of our teachers were from the weaker tribe. And there was jealousy between them. So they had to flee overnight to the regional capital called Chikapa. And our school fell apart. Like the local tribe continued, but there was only, let's say, 1/4. And the rest, they had to flee to Chikapa, which is 60 kilometers away. They had to start a new life from scratch. And after some time, our school director and his team of teachers and the pupils started school again by renting rooms in an existing school in Chikapa, and they had their classes in the afternoon. So by then we had 2 schools, and it's hard to make them run because your finances are limited. We actually started a 3rd school in 2017 in Mabala, which is about 500 kilometers northeast of Kinshasa. And that school is something that we are supporting still at this moment. And it's difficult to pay the teachers there also because the government doesn't pay them. So a lack of finances is one of the biggest problems we are facing there. And since this school in Mabala has a big property around, we bought 40 hectares of land. We encouraged them to grow food there to raise some local funds. And with the help of a World Bank organization, they started a palm nut tree plantation, but it will take a long time before this will bring some income.
You've written a book, or you're in the process of writing a book about your work in the Congo. Once that book is published and people start reading it, what kind of effect, why did you want to write the book in the first place? What kind of effect do you think that book's going to have on the people who read it?
Okay. Well, as you can see, we have a lot to talk about when we explain our work in Congo. And since I usually tell basically the same story, I thought, why not write it down, let the people read it, and then we can talk better about our work. I actually started my first attempt of this book 7 years ago. It was more like a longer newsletter about our work, but I didn't have much time to work on it at that time. Until about 2 years ago, I spent more time to get the news out because I have one special aspect of this book, and that is I have a close friend, Dr. Noor. She knows the Congo very well. She lived there 16 years, heading the biggest German government organization, like development aid organization called GIZ. And she teaches, now she teaches political science again at the Free University in Berlin. And she gave me insight into what's happening in the Congo, a story which is very difficult for an outsider to understand. Now, I wrote all this in my book, quoting Dr. Noor, and she explains the Congo tragedy very well.
So can you give us, you say the Congo tragedy, what exactly are you talking about? Can you give us a bit of the behind the scenes vision of what's going on in the Congo, the tragedy that you just mentioned?
Well, I don't think any one of us can imagine what the Congolese suffered in the last 135 years. First, under the Belgian King Leopold II, from 1885 until 1908, Congo became his private property for 23 years. Can you imagine that? His private property. Under his rule, about 10 million people, half of its population of that time, died. Then came the brutal reign of the Belgian colonial power until 1960, and after independence, Congo went through terrible infightings until Mobutu took over, and he had his reign of terror for over 30 years, supported by the US and Belgium. Now, Mobutu had to flee the country when Laurent Désiré Kabila, the father of the later President Joseph Kabila, entered Congo with the help of the Ugandan and Rwandan army. When Father Kabila didn't give Uganda and Rwanda what they wanted, namely access to the mineral resources in the east of the Congo, this sparked a war between these countries in Congo. And this war raged from 1998 until 2003. They called it the African World War because a lot of countries were involved. And in reality, this war continues until today. I mean, today. I would like to explain a bit about the background, why there is such a battle in Congo. Congo is one of the richest countries in the world as far as mineral and natural resources is concerned. It has oil, gold, diamonds, copper, tin, and uranium. But most importantly for today is coltan, which is being used in all our mobile phones, and cobalt, which is used in our cars and other big batteries. Congo has about 2/3 of the world's resources of cobalt worldwide. Wow. Yeah, it's actually one of the richest countries in the world as far as natural resources is concerned, but in reality, it's one of the poorest countries in the world. So obviously something is wrong there.
Wow, one of the richest in natural resources and one of the poorest in the world.
Right. Yeah, let me give you a bit of a sample of what's going on in the east of the Congo. Like I said, and even today, until today, dozens of rebel groups. Like I asked one of my close friends there, I said, I heard that there's 50 rebel groups in the east of the Congo still today. Is that true? He said, yeah, that's true. But it's better than 150 rebel groups, which they had before. So these rebel groups are supported by Uganda and Rwanda to drive out the local population of that area, because that's where the minerals are, so that these minerals can be extracted easier and then smuggled out of the country. From the first Congo War in 1996 until today, in about 25 years, they lost almost estimated between 6 million and 9 million people, way more than in all the recent wars in the Middle East. Now, who knows about this? Why is that not covered more in the mainstream media? Because the rich industrialized nations want to keep exploiting these resources. Rwanda and Uganda support these rebel groups in the east of the Congo near their borders. And these militia groups, they kill people, burn villages, rape women to drive out the local population in this part of the country, so the resources can be extracted easier and smuggled out of the country. Now, my hope of that book is to spread this story about what's going on there into the whole world, to bring up about a change that is needed there.
So what do you think, what's the solution? The solution, in your opinion, how do you correct a situation like that? There's so much money involved. I mean, billions of dollars involved.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, my how do I say, my role model is William Wilberforce. You know, when he started to speak up in England in the parliament against the slave trade, they were laughing at him. They were saying, what? You want to stop the slave trade? We need the slaves. We can't, the economy will collapse, you know. And I think they will say the same thing. If we would say, let's stop this militia invasions, this smuggling out of the country, you know, let's establish proper rule. People will say, no, wait a minute, then all these minerals, all this cobalt, coltan, the prices will go way up. The economy will go down. And I would say the same thing as William Wilberforce. He just kept pursuing his goal of revealing the trouble that the slave trade caused, until finally, shortly before his death, I hope I don't have to wait that long, the country realized what's happening there is terrible. We need to stop it. And my hope is that this truth about what's going on in the east of the Congo will also come out, and we'll stop this madness. Because in my book, I explain there are solutions. You know, if the whole world would work together well, like if the Congo would get developed, instead of keeping it poor like it is and exploiting it, if it would get developed, number one, the people would be happy, they would get what they need, and all of Africa could develop, and then the rich countries could have a trade partner. Like this, they have no trade partner. There's nothing to trade. They just take it out, you know. Who
are the takers in this situation? Who are the big players in the Congo getting the money? Is it the government? Is it the Western influence?
Okay. Yeah, the government also, of course, is part of this game. It is multinational Western companies, including China, who benefit from these minerals. They want them. They actually fight over these minerals because they're running out. You know, like they want to make electro cars. If they want to have electro cars, they need cobalt. So they're already fighting over the resources now and storing them in their countries. Or like the mobile phones, you know, you need coltan. And this comes, the cheapest way comes out of the Congo because there is no control over it. And that's something that, in my opinion, it has to stop, because if that doesn't stop, the violence in the Congo will never stop. You know, people will keep dying, and there will be no end of trouble. And my goal is that this will stop. You know, that's my hope, that the world will wake up and will face the facts, and they will investigate, and they will stop it. They will publish the news. They already, there's multinational companies who benefit from this. Okay, it's Rwanda and Uganda who invade with their military, like they're not their military, but militia men. They support them. They're like paid soldiers, and they make it possible for these resources to be exploited.
I'd like to ask you kind of a personal question. What motivates you to get involved in all of this? What motivates you to do what you have done in the Congo?
Well, to be honest, as a missionary, you're not supposed to get involved in politics. And that's what I said to Dr. Nur when she told me the story about the Congo. I said, I don't want to be involved in this because it touches on politics. And she says, yeah, you can do that, but it's like sticking your head into the sand and let the world go to pot. And I agreed with her. I said, after I know what's going on there, I felt like I have to tell the story. It's not easy to tell the truth about something that doesn't want to be told, but I feel like it needs to be told, you know, and it's my I feel like William Wilberforce, once he found out what's going on with the slaves, I feel like something needs to be done to stop it. And it's my hope that the world will realize what's going on there. It's much worse than what's happening in the Middle East. You know, everybody talks what's going on there because of the many refugees, but what's happening there, it's not just refugees, it's people losing their lives. It's like every month, thousands of people die there. And even the local population is not allowed to take photos or to report on it. It's a big crime that's happening there.
If somebody wanted the same motivation that you have, if somebody wanted to be motivated the same way you are motivated here, what would you tell that person?
Well, maybe I should tell a little bit more about what's happening first, what's happening in my book. I'm not just talking about this. This is only the first chapter of my book. But like in the second chapter, I bring out what we are doing in the Congo, what can be done to help that country, also to give an example for other people. And then there are other subjects I'm covering, which is also very valuable, I think, for people in the West. I'm talking about the rich, the highly developed countries and their challenges, because they have also challenges. I call it sicknesses of civilization. Things like loneliness, stress, suicide, too much emphasis on material things, losing important values of life. I cover all this and I offer some solutions for this. But the biggest solution I explain in the second part of the book, and it goes something like this. In chapter 4, I introduce the spirit world, which is an important aspect of life, which is invisible, but it plays a big role in our life. Like the most important things in life cannot be touched, produced, bought, or sold. Things like friendship, love, joy, fulfillment in life, etc. And in chapter 5, I describe firsthand miracles which our little family and some of our closest friends experienced in their life to show that the spirit world is not just an idea in someone's head, but it is something tangible, something that you can experience. And then the last chapter finally covers the big subject of the book and the big solution to all our problems, which is love. Love is the only real solution for all the problems in the world or in someone's personal life. I explain also what I mean with love, not the fake movie type of love, but real, unselfish, active, unconditional, lasting love, which reaches out to help other people, not considering what color, creed, or ethnicity or social standing. Now,
so how does a person get that love that you're talking about, that motivating love?
Well, the thing is, how I found it, because when I go back to my life story, at the time after my high school, I did my compulsory military service, and then I studied art at the Art Academy in Karlsruhe. And at that time, the only thing that kept me going was painting and sculpturing. Otherwise, I was pretty. I had no vision really. I didn't know what to do with my life or how to help change things in the world. But in those years, I met my oldest brother and his Norwegian wife. She was also an artist. And I spent time with them and with their friends because they had something I was looking for. They had positive, happy outlook on life. And they had love between each other like I had never seen or experienced in the adult world around me. And they showed that kind of love to me and to those around them. And after some time, I asked them, where do you get that love from? And they told me it comes from God. Now, my understanding of God at that time was that he was in the church with all his rules and pomp, and I just couldn't believe in that kind of a God. I was an atheist for almost 10 years, but I couldn't deny the love that they had. And it was so obvious, so real. And I asked them, how can I experience this love as well when I don't believe in God? They told me, well, it is the grace of God, and you have to wait for God to reveal himself to you. So I waited and I kept looking for God, and I asked many Christians from many different denominations, but none of them could tell me how I could connect with God. Until 2 years later, I met some missionaries who told me that it was quite easy to believe in God. All I had to do was say a prayer and ask Jesus to come into my heart. They made it sound so simple that I just did it. I repeated the prayer with one of them, and I tell you, I experienced God's love in such a deep way. My life was totally changed overnight, from night to day, from darkness to light. And immediately I knew that this was the answer I was looking for in my own life. And I knew it was the solution for the world, to change the world around.
Wow. Listen, before I ask you the next question, which I know we're coming toward the end of our little time here together, what is the name of your book, and when do you think it's going to be out for everybody to read?
Well, I gave a TEDx talk on the same subject with the same title. It's called "Change the World with Love." You can Google it. Wolfgang Schmidt.
You said that's one of the TED Talks.
TEDx talk.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago, and then last year, actually now it's already a year, 2 years also. In 2019. I gave another speech by the same title, which you can also Google, Change the World with Love, where I explain more about the book. The book is almost being finished. It's written in English and in German, and we want to publish it in the States and for the English-speaking part of the world, as well as in Germany. And we are translating it into Czech to reach the Czech Republic as well. It should come out soon.
So is that the name of the book, Change the World with Love?
That's right.
Okay,
That's
wow, cool. Listen, there might be somebody that's watching this interview, some young person, some older person who would like to help you get involved. Maybe somebody even wants to go with you to the Congo and teach the children, or help, or financially support you. If somebody wanted to get involved on any level with you, how would they do that?
Okay. Well, I would say the best thing you can do for yourself, for your own life, is try to get that same life-changing experience that I had 47 years ago. I experienced so much love, it never left me all these years, and it never diminished. And I explain in the book in detail how to do that, how to have a fulfilled life. And it helped me to help people in 14 different countries on 4 continents, and it can help anybody wherever they are. All you have to do is open your heart and ask God to fill you with His love. If you want to know more about our work and about what I'm doing, you can just check out our website of our association called Active Direct Help, which you can also Google. The website is very simple. It's called www.adh-congo.org.
And we'll also put that on the screen here for them to see.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, there you will find our bank account or PayPal account of our association. We'll be very thankful for any donations towards our project in the Congo. That's actually the biggest need, because we have a team there who can do the job. But we need funds, and the more we have, the more we can help. And if you have any questions, you can send me an email through the contact form on our website. I'll be happy to hear from you, and I'll answer you.
And I think you also mentioned, we were speaking before this interview, that the proceeds from the sale of this book are going to go toward the supporting of your work in the Congo, the schools, right, the children, and all that you're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, we have enough for our personal support. We don't need much. Actually, I'm talking about that in the book. You don't need much money to live on if you're just content with what you have. I have my laptop, I have a table, I have my bed. We don't need much. But for the Congo, yeah, if the book sells well, I don't want any of that money. It goes directly to the Congo, because the people there, I tell you, when you live there more than 10 years, you know the need, and you will be happy to send all the support you can get. So that's our plan.
We'd like to thank you very much, Wolfgang, for sharing all that. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We hope that lots of people see this interview that we've had with you. We hope that a lot of people want to get involved and support you. And thank you so much for spending your time with us. We appreciate that. And all I can say is God bless you and God bless the work that you're doing.
I want to thank you, Ben, and your organization and all you're doing to spread the news. I know you're doing a wonderful job. I watched your channel, and I hope that a lot of people will be hearing about this story, will be touched, and also will be helped for themselves. That's my prayer, is that people will have a better life by reading this book, and that we can help people in the Congo to have a better life there as well. So thank you, and God bless you too.
Okay, until next time.
Yes.
Adios and Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Thank you.
We hope that this program has been an inspiration to you and that it encourages you to reach out and help those in need in your part of the world. And if you'd like to help the work that you've seen in this video, we'll put a link in the description below.